Now to Denny, who slips through, pumps, turns, fades, got it, and one. We are tied at 15, and Denny Avdia will go to the line with an opportunity to give the Blazers their first lead tonight. Sharp slows it down across the timeline. Drives left of the lane, slips through, banks it in with the left hand. Patience from Shaedon Sharp, and the Blazers have a 10-point advantage. On the other end, there's a block by Murray as Spears tried to run the length of the floor. Murray stayed with him, blocks it. Here comes Avdia, picks it up. What a pass to Chris Murray as he dunks it in for two, and the Blazers lead it 67-55. Avdia tries to dribble past Poole. He does. Steps through, kicks it out to Kamara. He's wide open, knocks down the three. And the Blazers have a 13-point lead. Kamara now with 11. It's the largest lead for either team. Throws it out to Sissoko. Rifles the pass to Klingon, who turns and dunks it in. Terrific vision from C.D. Sissoko. 78-69, Blazers lead. Murray drives and kicks it out to Denny. Wide open three-pointer is good. Avdia's got 28, and it's 90-75 Blazers as they have matched their largest lead of the game. Denny spins, gives it to Love for three. That's good. 19 points for Caleb Love, and the Blazers lead at 105-84. Avdia with the assist. He's got another double-double, his 11th of the season. Tamani, congratulations on the win. It was a rough start, really, for both teams, and then your defense picked it up in the second quarter, and you guys didn't turn the ball over as much. What led to the rhythm that got you the big lead that you ended up holding on to?
Be able to go halftime and realize what we were doing wrong. I think the emphasis was the turnovers. Let them go in transition. Defensively, we weren't getting backdoors, a lot of offensive rebound. Even though the second half they had a lot of offensive rebound, but I think we locked in more. Offensively, we had great possession every time down. We didn't turn the ball much second half, and then we took care of ourselves in the game plan defensively.
It was a game of two halves, and as you heard Toumani Camara say right there, they locked in the second half. You heard some of those highlights there to open the show, because last night the Blazers kind of started slow, poured it on late, and grabbed a very impressive 122-109 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. Welcome in to Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you as always. If you want to join the conversation, you can follow me on social at Chris J. Burkhardt. You can also head over to youtube.com. Just type in Rip City Radio. Join the chat there, or hit us up on the text line. 88528 is the number to text. And as I mentioned, it was a slow start for the Blazers in a game that we talked about. The team needed to set the tempo early. Don't let New Orleans be the team that sets the tempo. And unfortunately, the Blazers weren't tuned into Game Day because they let New Orleans set the tempo early. The Pelicans looked like they were going to find a way to keep their offense rolling, despite the fact that Sadiq Bey wasn't playing, despite the fact that Derek Queen wasn't playing, and despite the fact that Trey Murphy wasn't playing. Three guys who have had some exceptional games against the Blazers already this season. But they did have Zion Williamson, who was a handful as always. And so the Pelicans jumped out to the early 37-29 lead over your Trailblazers. But the Blazers were able to flip the script on them in the second, outscored them 34-18, and then held that offense in the third and fourth quarter at the hip and got the 122-109 victory. Now they get to turn around and face the San Antonio Spurs tonight in San Antonio, game 3 of this 3-game road trip. And San Antonio will be limping into this one. They will be without Devin Vassell and without Victor Wembanyama, dealing with a little left knee soreness. He hyperextended his knee just a few games ago, similar to what Nikola Jokic did. Nikola Jokic and both Victor Wembanyama avoiding any massive structural damage, which is great, but you obviously don't want to hurt anything. So without Victor Wembanyama, it becomes a much more interesting game for the Trailblazers. But all you got to know is that last time these two matched up in NBA Cup play in Moda Center, the Spurs did not have Victor Wembanyama, and they still grabbed a 115-102 victory over your Trailblazers. But before we get to today's game, let's continue to talk about what happened last night in New Orleans because a lot to like and a lot to still work on. We know that the injury bug is what it is. We hopefully will be getting Scoot and Drew and company back sooner rather than later. Team did let out a update a few days ago and announced that Drew and Scoot are kind of back to basketball activities, not doing the full 5-on-5 contact full court stuff yet, but still making progress, and we'll see what happens there. But in this game, a lot to like on the Pelican side of things. Zion was incredible. He had 30 minutes of action, 35 points, 8 rebounds on 15 to 26 shooting. Bryce McGowan's had 13 points. Jordan Poole had 16. Jeremiah Fears had 18. Kario Matkovic had 16 off of the Pelicans bench. But on the Blazers side of things, they did exactly what they needed to do. Last time those two teams played, they had no centers. The Blazers had no DC, no Robert Williams, no Young Hansen, and they got absolutely blasted on the glass with the Pelicans outscoring the Blazers in that one by 20. Of course, outscoring is a weird term to use. Out-rebounding the Blazers by 20. In this one, the Blazers won the rebound battle 46-42, which doesn't feel like a big victory when you only have 4 more rebounds in total. But considering last time it was a 20 rebound difference, that's a big victory for the Blazers. Blazers had 27 assists to the Pelicans 22. The biggest difference in this one, and hopefully something the Blazers can turn around and kind of build on, is the fact that the Blazers had a season low 9 turnovers. Only time they have been in single-digit turnovers in a game this season. That turned into a lot of shots and easy possessions for the Trailblazers, who shot 44.6% from the floor. Tumani Kamara had a good game, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. We need more of that. Chris Murray had just 6 points, starting for the injured Jeremy Grant. Donovan Clingan, an 11-point, 15-rebound double-double. 34-point, 11-assist double-double for Denny Avdia. And Shaden Sharp chipped in 23 points as well. And if you were watching the 5th quarter, I always hand out a game ball. Who was my player of the game? Well, it wasn't any of the players that we mentioned already. It was Denny Avdia, but there was a case to be made for Caleb Love, who had a game ball a few nights ago, because another solid performance from the Blazer rookie. 27 minutes of action, 22 points, tied in his career high once again in 6 made 3-point field goals. Now, I did slip of the tongue there, but going back, Denny Avdia got our game ball, and it wasn't because he scored 34 points, because it's easy to always hand it to the guy who scored the most, and sometimes that's why the person gets the game ball. But no, he got the game ball tonight because he literally kept the Blazers in the game in the first quarter when the Pelicans were trying to kind of run away with it, and it felt like the Pelicans might have another night where they score points despite the fact they are a poor offense, that they make you work. Denny Avdia had 13 points in that first quarter alone. He was trying everything he could to keep them in the game and not let the Pelicans run away with it. That's why he earned the game ball. So a solid performance there. And I talk about the things that you like in this one. We've seen a couple games as of recent where Tumani Kamara is struggling, and he only has 6 points or 9 points when the game is done. Getting him into the teens is a good thing, and doing all the other little things. He had a block shot, the assists, the rebounds. Those are things you need. Getting Shaden Sharp back up into the 20s, getting 23 points, 9 of 18. That's 500 from the floor. 1 of 6 from deep is not ideal, but he was still finding other ways to score. That's what you like. And then Caleb Love is quite honestly going to give people problems if he keeps playing like this. And I'm not talking about just the coaches and when it comes to rotation minutes and the teams that he's playing against. When it comes to how do we defend this guy coming off the bench, I'm talking about guys like Joe Cronin, who have decisions to make in the long term here between Caleb Love and Sidi Sissoko, and who is going to be the guy who gets a contract, because they're both playing like guys who deserve NBA deals at this point. So which one of them is the one that actually gets one? Because keep in mind, they are on 2-way deals. So eventually they got to get converted to NBA contracts if they want to keep playing. And so that's something that Joe Cronin's going to have to worry about in the future too, because both those guys have been playing exceptionally well. We have given Sidi Sissoko his flowers on numerous nights because he's been huge for this team. And then Caleb Love has just been unreal as of late. He's coming in, he's lighting up the scoreboard, he's hitting big shots. I think the biggest thing for him that has been good to see over the last handful of games is that He's just doing it with consistency. We've seen those nights where he's absolutely off. He is cold as ice. I mean, you could throw water on him and you would get icicles because he can't hit anything. He's that cold. He hasn't been like that as of late. He has been consistent, and you can trust him to hit those open threes. And that's a great revelation to have for a young two-way guard, especially on a team that is guard depraved. I would be interested to see if you try to put the ball in his hands a little more, maybe teach him to be an NBA point guard at some point, because you need someone who can do that. This team is clearly still missing Drew Holiday and Scoot Henderson, because when Denny Avdia is off the court and you don't have a guy running those half-court sets, it shows. It absolutely shows. And Caleb Love, maybe you can be that guy. Now, tonight we talked about injuries. Nothing changing on the Blazers front. That was last updated a few hours ago. Jeremy Grant is out. Scoot Henderson is out. Drew Holiday out. Damian Lillard, Matisse Thybulle, Blake Wesley out. The only difference, and this is one that we definitely expected, is Robert Williams is out because he has not played both games of a back-to-back yet this season and played last night. So you're going to sit him out tonight. So you're going to get some young Hansen minutes, and he's another player that I like to see. I see the potential. I know the social media has been kind of ripping him apart because, oh my gosh, he's terrible. He's this, he's that. Yeah, well, he's a 19-year-old big man learning a new language, playing in the best league in the world at a position that is notorious for taking time to develop those young guys. So I would definitely give him a leash. I know people get mad. Oh, you could have had Coward. You could have had Queen, was another player that Blazer fans were watching during the draft. Well, you didn't get those guys. You got young Hansen. We'll see what happens in the long run with him. But you're probably going to see a healthy dose of him tonight in San Antonio. And if you're just tuning in, that is a San Antonio Spurs team that is without Victor Wembanyama. This is Blazers Game Day. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. You can follow me on social at Chris J. Burkhardt on whatever platform you're using. And you can also follow the show at Rip City Radio 620 on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, and whatever social media app you are using. We're going to take a quick break here. When we return, we're going to head to the coach's corner here from head coach Thiago Splitter following that game in New Orleans. And then we're going to look at this San Antonio Spurs team. We're going to kind of look back how they won that game in the NBA Cup earlier this season, break that down, because it's going to play out similar tonight with no Victor Wembanyama. This team without Vic is still dang good. I love the way this roster has been constructed. I like the way they're coached. There's a lot to like about San Antonio. This will be a tough game tonight for the Blazers, and we'll talk about it more when we return here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. Time now for the Coach's Corner. Let's go back to New Orleans last night. Here, what head coach Tiago Splitter had to say following that victory against the Pelicans.
The whole game, at least for the second part of the game. So, and being smart after that, when Donovan roll and find shooters, and I think Caleb Love also had a great game offensively, just knocking down shots and creating for us.
What did you think of Benny's decision making, especially when obviously the second half they were really going on?
Yeah, I think he creates, so much gravity, so the whole defense is around him. So that allows, like, Caleb, shots, too many shots, shaded shots. So DC is just a monster on the offense rebound as well. So, it's a big part of our team.
Can you talk a little more about Donovan's rebounding tonight as well? As you mentioned, 9 offensive rebounds tonight. You guys had 24 second chance points, I think so. I mean, you talk about them scoring the last game. You guys did really jump for this game.
Yeah, I think he was huge, especially, crashing from the outside. Many times we see him fighting under the rim, but we had a couple of those. He was just crashing to the board and running after a rebound. So, just growing as a basketball player, growing as a big and being active, getting used to play like high minutes and being effective.
For a big man as well, and for a young big man, you talk about playing high minutes, and you're exactly right. Like, he's been increasing those minutes. Kind of, what is the struggle there for a young big man?
Well, you keep the strength. Like, usually when you go for long periods of playing, you start to get sloppy, or you don't crash anymore. You just rest sometimes, and I don't think he's doing that. He's being aggressive. He's fighting that fatigue, and he's going for every rebound.
And there you hear from Tiago Splitter, and a couple things there talking about Donovan Clingan. Donovan Clingan has been absolute, just a menace on the glass this season. The nights that he's off, it definitely shows, and when he is on, he impacts the game like no other right now. 15 of the team's 46 rebounds, 9 of those on the offensive side, where he has been absolutely stellar this season. So shout out to Donovan Clingan, and you need those. We've talked a lot about the nights where the team is struggling, or they're playing a team that is good defensively, and you're like, yeah, well, we need a guy to go out there, block shots at the rim, and then be incredible on the glass. We need someone who makes sure every other team has to work, and Donovan Clingan does that. He comes into tonight averaging just a little over 10 rebounds, 10.5 rebounds per game, which is 12th in the entire league individually. And his rebounding numbers on the offensive side, he's averaging 4.5 offensive rebounds per game, which is 3rd best in the NBA. Sandwiched between Walker Kessler at number 2 and Steven Adams at number 4. And those are 2 guys that can go out there and rebound. Mitchell Robinson leading the league at 4.7. Speaking of leading the league, you also heard him talk a little bit about Caleb Love's offense. And that was the guy I mentioned earlier when we were talking about a guy who's got a couple game balls as of late, who has been consistent, who has found ways to hit the three-pointers when the team needs him to, which is a breath of fresh air for a team that's been struggling to strike from beyond the arc. He was 6 of 11 from deep in that game against New Orleans for 22 points. And you look at the rookie leaderboards right now, Caleb Love is 12th in the league in points per game among rookies. And that might sound weird, but there's only 10 rookies averaging double figures per game. Conconopel and Cooper Flagg, both at 19 points per game. VJ Edgecombe, 16.1. Jeremiah Fears, 14.3. Cedric Coward, a player that a lot of Blazer fans do enjoy and wish Blazers would have drafted, at 13.7. Derek Queen, another one that I know a lot of Blazer fans were watching in the draft, at 13.1. And then down there at number 12 in the league is Caleb Love at 9.7. What makes Caleb Love, though, interesting is he leads undrafted players in points, and he leads among all rookies, first round, second round, undrafted or otherwise. He's 5th in the league in 3-point makes. And that is something to hang your hat on, again, especially a team like the Blazers, who have struggled to strike from beyond the arc, and they need people to come in and hit those three-pointers. He's been doing a great job. Again, Konkonopel with 120 leads all rookies. Igor Demin at 64. VJ Edgecombe, 61. Trey Johnson of Washington has 55. And then there's Caleb Love at 50. Number 5 among all rookies. Also 156 attempts, which is the 4th most. I believe I saw a social media post earlier today that he is the fastest to 53s since Damian Lillard did it his rookie year. So shout out to Caleb Love. He deserves some praise right now because the Blazers have needed some punch off their bench, and he's giving it to them right now. And keep in mind, when you look at those numbers and say that he's top 12 in points per game, top 5 in three-point makes, that he has not played all 35 games and has not been a major part of rotation for the 27 games that he has played. He's worked his way into that, and then injuries have forced the hand of head coach Thiago Splitter and put him in a position to, show off a little bit. I like that. You got to give him some props, right? You absolutely got to give him some props. Again, he's had those off nights where the shooting is not there, but when it's on, it's fun. And I like the fact that he does not shy away from shooting the basketball. We've seen players do that, afraid to shoot. He's not one of them. So shout out to Caleb Love. Now, you're going to have a good night from Caleb Love and Donovan Clingan and everyone else that we have even mentioned today to get a victory against this San Antonio Spurs team, a team that is very, very good, even without Victor Wembanyama, who has just been absolutely incredible. Unfortunate now that this will be the second time these teams have matched up this season, and it'll be the second time that the Blazers will be not facing Victor Wembanyama. I think that's, Blazer fans want to see that. Basketball nerds want to see the best play, and it's just unfortunate he's not going to go at you. But if you're San Antonio, you will still find a way. This is still one of the best teams in the NBA for a reason. They've missed Vic for multiple games, not just right now. And they're still 25-9. They have 3 wins over the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Nobody matches that record over their last 10 in the Western Conference or the NBA for that matter. Could be a lot worse. Could be the Pacers, who are 0-10 in their last 10. Woof. Meanwhile, the Blazers 6-4 in their last 10, which isn't terrible either. But this is a San Antonio team that knows how to get it done. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break here on Game Day. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at that NBA in-season tournament game that happened in Moda about a month ago. Look at what happened in that game, how the Spurs were able to get the win, how that will impact today's game, because it'll be similar with no Victor Wembanyama, and continue to get you ready for Blazers versus Spurs down in San Antonio. All right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you, getting you ready for Spurs versus Blazers, game 3 of this 3-game road trip for your Blazers before returning home for some more home cooking. That's always nice to get back home. Hopefully the next homestand goes a little bit better than the last one, where the Blazers went 2-3 over that stretch, but it's not necessarily going to be an easy one either, as you have, games against the Rockets and the Knicks. That's a couple top teams in their respective conferences. Of course, you do get Utah on the 5th, which hopefully you can win that game. And also Circle Friday, January 9th. That is the annual celebration of AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Night, at the Blazer game, which I am psyched for, being an Islander and having ties to the Hawaiian Islands, which was phenomenal, by the way, for New Year's. Made some grabbed my grandma's recipe for Vina Doyle's, a little Portuguese pickled pork, if you will, and made that for the very first time. The only bad part was I was like, I want to text my grandma. She'd be so proud of me. And my grandma passed away before texting was a thing. So I don't know why texting her popped into my mind, but it was so awesome to make my grandma's recipe, and it tasted just like her cooking too. So that was absolutely phenomenal. And so yeah, be there January 9th for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Night at Moda as they take on the Houston Rockets. But before they get to take on the Houston Rockets twice, because they'll play them Wednesday and Friday at Moda, they have to take on another team from Texas. That is the San Antonio Spurs. This is the second matchup of the season. They played them earlier in the year. It was in the in NBA in-season tournament game, and it was, if the Blazers won, they would have advanced out of the group of death they were in. Unfortunately, they did not win that game. They outscored the Spurs 30-29 in the first quarter. Then were outscored 27-24 in the second. It was a 5-point game heading into the fourth. At 91-86, the Blazers were able to cut it to 93-91 with 10.5 to go, but that was the closest it would get for the rest of the way. San Antonio outscored the Blazers 24-16 in that fourth quarter to grab a 115-102 victory. And you looked around, both teams at 48 and 46 points in the paint in favor of San Antonio. So right at the same clip right there. Roughly the same second chance points, 20-19 in favor of Portland. Fast break points, 12-9 in favor of San Antonio. Bench points were close. Everything you're looking at that. What was the difference in the game? Okay, they didn't have Victor Wembanyama, so the Blazers should have stood a chance. What was the difference in the game? Well, if you've been paying attention to Blazer games all season long, my guess is you can tell me what the difference in the game was without even looking at the box score. Turnovers. The Blazers had 18 turnovers. San Antonio had just 9, and they converted those turnovers into 21 points off of turnovers. The Blazers had just 9. So, again, quick math, you have 12 more points off turnovers than the other team in a game that was decided by 13 points. Those turnovers ended up looming pretty large in the grand scheme of things. So just like we've said a lot of the times, this seems to be the bugaboo for this Blazers team. You have got to take care of the basketball, which is why I love what happened in New Orleans with that season low 9 turnover performance, and it was able to, especially in the second half, get the offense rolling. Now you look at the box score in this game as well. Devin Vassell had 23 points. He was the second leading scorer for the San Antonio Spurs, and he will not be in action tonight. So, again, that favors the Blazers. No Devin, no Victor Wembanyama. That's going to be important. Now you have Harrison Barnes, who had 13 in that game. Julian Champagnie had 12, and De'Aaron Fox dropped 37 points on 11 of 25 shooting. He was 12 of 12 from the line. So foul trouble and staying out of it will also be key for this Trailblazers team. In that game, though, just like there was guys who went off in that game that San Antonio will be without, there are guys who had pretty good games that Portland will be without. Jeremy Grant was 5 of 17 with 13 points. Struggled mightily from beyond the arc, though. He was 0 for 5. You don't see him go 0 for that often. It wasn't as if that was a massive performance, but those 13 points are big. And in fact, on a night when the offense was struggling, that 13 points was the second highest on the team. Denny Avdia led the way that night with 37. They also had Robert Williams, who had 10 points and 5 rebounds and 4 of the team's 9 blocked shots. And he will not be playing tonight as he rests on the second night of a back-to-back. But those two guys are the only two who won't be in action tonight, who are in action for the Blazers in that game. So the Blazers are going to be more or less the same team that entered that game. Not so much for San Antonio, because again, missing Jeremy Grant and Robert Williams, not the exact same as missing Victor Wembanyama. Like, that's just, we can just put that out there. Like, that's pretty obvious, right? Victor Wembanyama is pretty darn good. Devin Vassell, also pretty darn good. 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.4 assists on the season for San Antonio. So he is no slouch of a basketball player. So San Antonio missing 2 pretty good players. De'Aaron Fox is going to end up shouldering the load now for them. But that is 2 of their top 4 scorers, and their number 1 scorer in Victor Wembanyama being out, their number 1 rebounder in Victor Wembanyama, and their number 1 shot blocker. Shall I go on? You get the picture. So big blow to San Antonio, and the Blazers need to take advantage. Again, this is the type of game where Donovan Clingan should be able to get going. Victor Wembanyama is not only a guy who is going to block a lot of shots on you down low. I mean, he averages 2.9 per game, which is pretty impressive. He's also pretty hard to block. I mean, like, the guy is about 15 feet tall, so getting a hand on that is tough to do. His 2.9 blocks per game lead the league right now, and that is by a big margin too, because next in the line is Alex Sarr at 2. So almost an entire block more than the guy in second place for a stat that a 3 is leading the league. That's pretty impressive, to say the least. So without him in the lineup, it changes everything dramatically for this San Antonio team. But again, you go back to that game at the end of November, they still will find ways to attack you. So we'll get to our keys to the game in a little bit, but just understanding how this team operates, you got to focus on De'Aaron Fox, who is still fast as lightning, one of the quickest guys in the league with the ball in his hands. He moves. He absolutely moves with just speed at every single point. Very agile, left to right, front to back. He's going to make you work on the defensive side so you can't get into foul trouble. And then, of course, you have other guys on that team who are going to find ways to get going. Julian Champagnie can get going. Harrison Barnes can still hit that 3-point shot when you leave him open, a 3-and-D guy that Blazer fans are definitely familiar with, going back to his time with the Golden State Warriors and being beat up by that team more than once. So this team, it's not as if losing Victor Wembanyama makes them a bad team. They just go from a great team to a still good team. That's what you're doing here, because again, San Antonio is just so well built. So you got to be ready to go. Now, all that being said, we have talked a lot about the Blazers needing to take advantage of these type of games because, yes, you are injured too. You don't have your entire complement of players, but odds are over the span of Victor Wembanyama's career, when San Antonio matches up with Portland, there's going to be more games that Victor Wembanyama plays versus Portland than games he misses versus Portland. So you need to take advantage of a San Antonio team that is not at full strength. Give them your A game, and then you may end up leaving Texas with a victory. That would be huge. It'd be absolutely massive to get a victory over San Antonio. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that it would probably feel pretty good for Tiago Splitter to walk into the arena he used to call home. Remember, we talked about when he played the Blazers in that 2014 series. My first time I got to travel with the team. Arena he used to call home, an arena that still loves him. If you pay attention to Spurs Twitter, they're all about Tiago and City Sissoko, two former Spurs. If you went in there and got a victory tonight, it would probably feel pretty good. All right, this is Blazers Game Day. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time for our keys to the game. What exactly do the Blazers need to do to get this victory. We'll let you know and continue to get you ready for Blazers versus Spurs here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio, 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Time now for our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to get a victory over this San Antonio Spurs team? And it's going to be an interesting matchup tonight without Victor Wembanyama. This Spurs team still very, very good. We've talked about that. I love the talent. I love how they're built. I love how they're coached. But when you take Victor Wembanyama away, it completely changes everything for this team. He leads the team in points at 24.3, and that is a team that comes into the game sixth in the league in scoring at 120 points per game. So they score a lot, but you take away their leading scorer, and now they're all of a sudden not as potent. Now, a lot of times that means someone else is going to pick up that slack, and they're still going to find ways to score. But odds are you're not as good as offensively when you're losing your guy who is your top scorer. So for the Blazers, what I think they need to do in this one is lean into the fact they like to get out there and run the ball, run the tempo, and get a lot of shots. That's going to put you in a spot to succeed. You're going to want to try to get this San Antonio team caught flat-footed, get around them, and get to the rim. Because without Victor Wembanyama, their defense at the rim is going to be nothing. Because this team, San Antonio, comes in, despite the fact they have Victor Wembanyama, who leads the league in blocks at 2.9 per game. San Antonio, one of the worst teams in the league at block shots overall. They come in at 18th at 4.6. So you take away the nearly 3 that you're getting from Victor Wembanyama, and this team averages a whole 1.7 blocks outside of Vic. That's not a whole lot. So I think without him, you're going to be able to get to the rim. And maybe, again, this has kind of been a theme here with how these teams they've played have balanced out. But again, get them into foul trouble. Force those other guys. Force Harrison Barnes to really try to put a body on you, get a hand in your face. Force Julian Champagnie to do the same thing. Force Keldon Johnson and Luke Cornett, who are going to be playing minutes. Kelly Olynyk. Force those guys to be put in spots where they're not as comfortable. Oh, gosh, Denny Avdia is coming down with a full head of steam. I got to try to stop him. Boop, there's the whistle. Denny's at the free throw line. So attack. Keep the Spurs flat-footed and understand that without Victor Wembanyama, their defense at the rim just does not exist. Now, you could also argue that, well, he buoys it a little bit, so they don't have to step up because he's right there. Well, even so, if he's right there, they're blocking overall as a team, still kind of middle of the road. So take advantage of that. And then secondarily, I want to see another game where you control the ball. If you flip this around and you have another one of those 18, 19 turnover games, that's where San Antonio is going to be able to get out ahead of you and get easy shots in transition, because you want to talk about guys and teams who can move the ball. Yes, the Blazers have built their identity on push and tempo, but if you get a rebound and you get the ball to De'Aaron Fox and now you're out in space, have fun playing catch up, because that guy is a sprinter. He is lightning quick. I mean, ironic. Foxes are quick, and his last name is Fox. Watch him run, because he will run right by you. So you got to make sure you're taking control of the ball. And again, the difference the last time these two teams matched up was that points off turnovers. San Antonio had 12 more points off turnovers than the Blazers did in a game that was decided by 13 points. Portland had 18 turnovers in that game. You cannot turn the ball over. I understand that having another single-digit turnover game is not really something that we would expect to happen, because they've only had one through 35 games. But one can hope. Give me 12, 13. I'll take that. That is better than 19 and 20. Take care of the ball, push tempo, attack. Without Victor Wembanyama, you have just absolutely opened up a shortcut to the rim. Get to the rim. Now, we talked a little bit about how this team with a new acting head coach, Tiago Splitter, it'd be kind of nice to go get a victory, right, in San Antonio, a place he used to call home. Tiago Splitter, again, was a San Antonio Spur for the first 5 years of his career. Then he went to Atlanta, played a few games in Philly before hanging it up. But he did win a championship with San Antonio in 2014 when they beat the Miami Heat. And if you recall your NBA history. In that playoff run, they beat Dallas in the first round. He had a spectacular series, averaging 10 points and 9 rebounds. Then they got the Portland Trailblazers in the semifinals, and a 29-year-old Thiago Splitter averaged 6.8 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 2.6 assists, and 1.2 steals against the Trailblazers in that series, a series that the Spurs won 4-1, and then they went on and played Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals and beat LeBron James and the Miami Heat in the finals for Thiago Splitter's only ring as an NBA player. And again, he had to go through the Portland Trailblazers to get there. So it is kind of funny how sometimes that works. Had to play against them, and now here you are coaching them against your former team. And it would be pretty nice for Thiago Splitter. I think if you asked him and he had the truth serum and he wasn't giving you the canned answer, how important it would be and what it'd feel like to go win against your former team in your former home in a place that you are still beloved, got to imagine it would feel pretty good. So hopefully he can get it done today in San Antonio. All right, music means it's time to go for me, not for you. You got to keep it locked in because coming up next across the Trailblazers audio network, Chad Dewing has your Trailblazers pregame show. I have confirmed it is actually Chad Dewing today. He will be in. He's feeling a little better, so that's always good. And then, of course, when he's all done, he'll toss it over to Travis Demers, who's waiting in San Antonio on play-by-play for Blazers versus Spurs, all right here on Rip City Radio 620. And then, of course, after the game, keep it locked in for the fifth quarter, where hopefully we're breaking down a Trailblazers victory. It's Spurs versus Blazers tonight on Rip City Radio. And Rip City, I'll talk to you after the game.